Joining me is the political panel, Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President, and Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Michael, the problem with this censure motion against Thorpe is that it gave her more publicity. I got that. But I reckon the problem with that really lies in the journalists who didn't confront her today, again, with what I consider is her racist politics or her hypocrisy or simply her family tree.
Well, Thorpe's got a touch of the Bruce Pascoe about her, doesn't she, Andrew? She seems to be using this part Aboriginality to make a career out of it, of grandstanding. She's one of the most highly paid people in the country, and her continued relevance relies on her doing these stunts on an irregular basis and for the media to fall into the trap of publicising her. But I think the bad news for her is that the recent American election shows that people are identifying more by their economic circumstances and less by race, sex, gender, etc., which probably tells you that we're over peak woke from that regard, and these attempts to divide our country here by race, etc., are diluting, as they should, Andrew.
Stephen, where do you think this race politics is going? I should, by the way, say the difference between Pascoe is that he's got no Aboriginal ancestry. Lydia Thorpe has got some, but 1 in 8 great-grandparents. I mean, give me a break. Stephen, where is race politics going, do you think?
Look, I think Michael made a number of good points there. I think if you look at the US election, you look at what you would call the centrist Democrats who are now leading the debate to try and regroup in the Democrats overseas, is that they're over the woke politics. I think they said we don't want to be the freak party. We don't want to be characterised.
I like that line. I read that too. It's a great line. I don't want to be part of the freak.
Yeah, it's a great line. Oh, God. Yeah. So I think that Lydia Thorpe is the canary in the coal mine, because when you follow the line of argument of these people, you end up as Lydia Thorpe. And if the Labor Party isn't prepared to take a stand to say we're not prepared to be pale imitations of Lydia Thorpe's politics, they've actually got to stand up and say enough is enough. I mean, Barack Obama called this out 5 years ago. He said, can we just settle down on the woke politics? So there's a string of people around the world in the left of centre politics who have to accept that if they want to remotely represent the centre, which is what, particularly in Australia, both sides of politics ultimately want to aspire to be, is identified with the senator, they've got to reject the Lydia Thorpe approach and the Lydia Thorpe ideology.
I think you're absolutely correct,
the Labor Party needs to take that message very to heart.
Yeah, but I don't see any consistently brave taking on the ideology that informs her. They're scared of that. But you're absolutely correct. By the way, Michael, Japanese troops are coming to Darwin now. Now, that's a city that Japan actually bombed 81 years ago. But this time it's to train with American and Australian soldiers to prepare all of us for any war with China. China's official Global Times newspaper is angry. It's writing the deployment of Japanese soldiers to Australia's Pearl Harbor. Get that warning there? Australia's Pearl Harbor is a dangerous shift, is it?
No, in fact, this is a very welcome development, Andrew. And in an increasingly uncertain and dangerous world, for the Australians and the Americans now to be training with Japanese is a very welcome development. As we know, the Japanese, because of the post-World War period, have taken a very laid-back attitude to these things. They haven't really had an army, but now they're emerging in the times of global crisis, and it's a good development. And what Richard Marles said today in the Parliament is, very well received, very welcome news.
Stephen, I'm going to give the Labor government a tick for facilitating this. How important is it? How much more do you want to see?
Look, I think it's really important, and congratulations to the government and to Richard for pulling this one off. Because, you talked earlier in your show about, the Chinese government has said, isn't Albo wonderful? Well, let's not fall into the same Lydia Thorpe trap. The Chinese government will say what it wants to do to destabilise our relationship with the US. They know that, they'll get publicity in Australia when they say it. So I think to the credit of the government, they've done two things at the same time. They've been able to walk and chew gum. They've been able to deliver a lifting of the trade sanctions, and at the same time, they have absolutely said we are going to continue to pursue our national security policy, which is in our national interest, and that includes, greater deepening relationships with AUKUS and the Americans, with the British, and now bringing the Japanese into the fold. And it is quite a historic concept, as you mentioned, bombing Darwin, and now they're here and they're party to helping strengthen our defence.
Their old enemies.
So don't listen to China when they want to say, elbows this or elbows that. This is the substance underneath.
I let you get in that dig. I'm going to let it slide because there's plenty of other things it has failed to do or done, like enmeshed us even more with China trade-wise, that I take issue with. But I take your point. Michael Kroger, Stephen Conroy, thank you both for your time.